Hello and welcome to Let Me Bore You to Sleep. My name's Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. And relax. So, this is, what time is it? It's about 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock nearly, I think. So it's a lot later than I normally make a recording. Recently, I've been doing them a bit more earlier. In fact, the last couple of days, I think I've even recorded and released, like edited and everything, on the same day, which is unusual for me. Did I say please only listen when you can safely close your eyes? I genuinely don't remember saying it ever. It's one of those, it's an automatic thing, and I just don't even know if I've said it anymore. 18 years of saying it, that's why. So today is Sunday the 28th, I think, of July 2024, and it's been hot. I tell you what's weird is whenever I do a video, because I started doing videos again, or basically just filming myself making the podcasts, and it feels a bit strange. It means I now have to wear clothes when I'm making a podcast, which is probably not something that people who have been listening to me for a long time really want to hear out loud, I guess. You mean you've been naked? No, I haven't. No, I haven't really. For those listening on the podcast, it's fine. So the thing is there's two different audiences. So I've got more people listen to the podcasts than watch the videos, or on my YouTube channel, that is. But it's a different audience. But there is a crossover. So some people that are on my podcasts do watch the videos, and some people watch the videos, do listen to the podcasts. So it's worth letting you know that this video, rather, if you're on YouTube, will be available as a podcast, basically all over the place. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, I'm on there. So just search my name, Jason Newland, Let Me Bore You to Sleep, and it will come up. And there's 4 versions of this recording. There will be one without music, 5 hour, no, one with music, 5 hour, 10 hour, 4 different versions. I feel the need when I do a video to explain what this podcast's about, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, it's now I'm going to do it now, so I'm not going to do it. It's just me talking, basically. That's all it is. I talk for about an hour about stuff. Sometimes it's stuff that's going on in my life now. Sometimes it's stuff that maybe's going to be happening tomorrow or the next day. Sometimes it's about stuff that's happened in the past. Sometimes it's just made up. I think there's a fly in the background. Is it me? Or are there less butterflies around these days? I started to notice that I've not seen many butterflies when I saw a butterfly. So, wait a minute, I haven't seen that many butterflies as late. That's it, Vinny. He's under the desk. Don't you mean table? No, it's actually a desk. It's a proper desk. Not a wooden desk. It's, to be fair, it's a gamer's desk. Had this a few years now. But it's metal. Proper heavy. And I decided to... It's very dusty, actually. Not as dusty as my exercise bike. That's the dustiest thing I've ever had that isn't connected to my body. Don't know what that means. I'm not sure. So I was thinking, and I posted a thing today on sweating on Facebook, on my Facebook group. So it's Jason Newland's Boring Group. Also on YouTube. Just search my name. That's for the podcast listeners, and yeah, there will be. Yeah, on my Facebook, I forgot what I was talking about. My Facebook group, Jason Newland's Boring Group. I posted a comment saying, "Would you be interested in me doing a live Q&A Friday, like every Friday, and when would be the ideal time?" So I've had a few responses. So I want to just like to say thank you to everyone for your responses. I'll do a little reply another time, but I thought I'd leave it a day or so just to see what comes up. Well, it's pretty much, I mean, I've been through this before. It's not a new situation. I've thought about this before. When can I do a live broadcast where I can talk, I can reach everyone? There's no time. There's no good time because of if I was just in one country, or if I was only broadcasting to just one country, then it'd be easy. But because I've got my audiences all dotted around the world, I've got 6 people that listen to me regularly. I'm pretty pleased about that. But they're in different countries. So my 6 audience members, and I'm pleased because it's taken me 18 years to get six listeners to my podcast. So I'm pretty pleased with that. You might think, oh, it's only 6. It'd be, yeah, I agree. It would be better if it was 7. It'd be more impressive. If it was 9, that'd put me at the top of the chain probably. I'd be one of the most popular podcasters in the world. And this is sarcasm, humour, by the way, just in case anyone's like thinking literally. 6 isn't a lot. I have to put a comment now. 6, you really think that 6 people is a lot in 18 years? I think you're wrong. I think it should be a lot more. Even 9 wouldn't be that much. Oh. At the moment, Facebook is getting a little bit silly. There's a lot of infighting at the moment. A lot of statements. Shall I tell you what I struggle with okay, wait a minute. Let's see if I can get it without... Oh, my hair's loose. I'm going to look it on my other phone. This is my old phone, but it's still connected to the internet. And there's a couple of apps that I can only open on this phone because I've forgotten the passwords. So I use this, when I want to do other certain things. It sounded a bit cryptic, didn't it? Certain things. Ordering my prescription, to be honest, that's pretty much the only thing. I have to go onto there. So, okay, I've got enough juice. let's go onto Facebook. This is what I mean, right? This is what I mean by Facebook posts. One of the things I find difficult is not spiritual people or people that call themselves spiritual. I just find some of the things that they post very difficult, because sometimes when they're talking, it just looks to me like word salad. It's like, and you get this from source, and source goes to the plane of reality, but then moves into unreality, and you dream in a different colour, and then a spiral from the meteors come down and start tickling your toes, and like, what? And your brain becomes like a verruca on the foot of a whale. I struggle with it. I've even looked into it just out of interest. Just like, what's it? What does it mean? Because I'm not completely. I know my way around like religion, with some religions. So Christianity, Catholicism. I used to be kind of Catholic when I was little for a while. I loved Christianity for a while as well. I still kind of do, to be honest. I still, regardless of what I say, I can't really think of a better person than Jesus. And I'm not being religious. I'm just like, as a person, like that ideal person. It just seemed lovely. But then I became a Buddhist, and I got really into Buddhism, like proper into it, for a long time. So I've been around people that have been really spiritual. I've never been particularly spiritual, and that used to get on people's nerves more than my hairstyle or my need to walk around in a bikini over my clothes. This, I think, because I wasn't all airy. Oh, I was more grounded, I guess, because I wasn't. For me, Buddhism. That's not a good my impression of a Buddhist. Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm not making fun of people. I'm not. I'm just. It's kind of, for me, I'm just trying to be a decent person. And some could argue, well, you're either decent or you're not. Okay, that is an argument. But I was trying to become a better person. Does that make sense? I was trying to get in touch with kindness and generosity, and not be so tough. I don't mean physically aggressive, just I think living in London created quite a hard shell for those 12 years I was there. It's sort of, you don't look at anyone, you don't really talk to anyone necessarily unless you know them. You wouldn't talk to anyone on a bus or look at anyone on a tube station, on a tube like underground train. And now I stare at everyone. It's brilliant. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was. I managed to soften. To soften a bit. I don't mean just because I'm old, and I don't mean in that way soften, but my belly's definitely softened. But at the same time, for me, it was never about being enlightened, about being some perfect human being. And I remember a ordained Buddhist, saying to me, I said, I don't want to be perfect. Well, you should want to be perfect. I'd like to be the best that I can be, the best version of myself, maybe, but without losing track or losing touch with reality, because, you know, due to my having bipolar and stuff, I can kind of, I've lost touch of reality a few times, and I didn't like it. So I'd like to kind of keep in touch with that side of, you know, grounded. I like to think of it as grounded and not be too. I'm making fun of myself really, because I used to be a little bit like that for a while. I used to just. I went through a stage when I was at school, when I was a Christian. No one. I wasn't forced to do it. I was forced to be a Catholic for a while, but I was living with Catholic nuns, so you've got no choice in that situation. When I was a kid, for a little while, a couple of years or whatever, and when I was about probably 12, 11, maybe 12, something like that, I got a Gideon's Bible. Maybe I was 11. Got Gideon's Bible from school. The Gideon came in and he handed Bibles out to everyone. I don't know how he manages to get everywhere, because they're everywhere, hotels, everything. He gets around, that Gideon. So this little red Bible. In fact, stay there. Stay there. Oh. There it is. Now, this isn't the original one, because, well, it isn't. I'm not sure when this one was written. It's exactly the same. I mean, I'm pretty sure everything's the same, but this is. I bought this one a few years back. So I'd walk around with this, bearing in mind I had much smaller hands, so I used to have to hold this in both hands and like hold on to it because it was so heavy. And I used to read it, and the more I read it, the more it seemed to change me. Thinking about it, considering I've always had, my whole life, as far as I remember, I've always had a bit of a mental health stuff going on. It's just no one else is really aware of it. I wasn't aware of why, and I wasn't really. I'm trying to explain this. I had extreme moods when I was a kid, like really extreme moods, and I'd go through periods when I was just really down, really quiet, really didn't do anything, and then other times when I was, just super switched on. So this is probably one of my more lower times, not lower, but perhaps a bit more in touch with how I was feeling, perhaps. And my dad, I was living with my dad by then, and he had to go into hospital to have a really serious, I'm not going to go into details, but really serious surgery. He got through it, and he's still around today, and I think he's about 132 now. But unfortunately, a member of my family told me that he might not survive the operation. Shouldn't have told me that. Why would you tell a kid that? But they told me that. So I was at school while he was having his operation done, and it was a proper long 12-hour operation or something like that. And this is back in 1932. It was a long time ago, when I was about 11 or 12. And I know I look good, thanks. See, you were thinking, oh, he looks so old, but now you realise that I'm like 90 odd. I don't look quite so old, do I? No, thanks. So I used to, on the build up to that, I started reading this, like really, really reading the Bible, the New Testament. I already had an Old Testament at home. I struggled a little bit with it. You know, the whole beginning is like that, goes on forever. It's such a long beginning, and it's like, what was it? He beget, 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 or something. I can't remember. Was it Genesis? Genesis was the first one, and then Revelations was the last one, wasn't it? I think the last chapter of that book. The only thing that I found interesting was Jesus. So this isn't a story. This isn't going to be a religious thing. When I was told, I was already worried about my dad, and I was a proper worrier. Like, I didn't even know when I was worrying sometimes, because I was kind of semi in tune with how I was feeling. Sometimes I kind of knew why I felt the way I did, but I was a kid, and it was very confusing. And also, it was kind of, it wasn't always easy to have the space to think things through, because I had 3 brothers and 2 parents, and it's like everyone was like always on and doing stuff, and I didn't get the space that I needed. And I've always needed space. This is in some ways the best time of my life, because I've had some space. I've got space now for the first time, really, where I'm not really bothered by anyone generally, and I got time to think and time to, you know, process things without someone, you know, demanding my time or something else. So yeah, so I went through this period when I was really reading this book. I read it cover to cover a few times. I kept reading through it. I know it's pretty much the same story, just told by different people, isn't it? So, loved it. Didn't like Corinthians though. No, I don't know. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. But I started to. This is totally true. I started to believe I was Jesus. It's true. I did. I started to believe. Went through a period when I actually thought I was Jesus. I was the resurrected Son of God. That's what I did believe for a while. Now, I didn't tell anybody. So I thought I'd just tell everyone now. So now you know. And yeah, I did. It was very weird. And there was one point, I don't know what it was. It was a particular moment in class where I think I dropped some money on the floor, and some of the kids were running, my friends or classmates, running to get the money out off the floor and run off with it. And I just let them. Which isn't something that I ever would have done previous to that. But I was in that kind of, in my mind, a higher state where I had didn't care about money, didn't care about belongings. That was probably my lunch money, so I probably should have cared about it. But I didn't care. I didn't want it. Nothing matters anymore. And it was weird, really weird, that like a little child's, because you say, well, I was 12, you're not a little child when you're 11 or 12. I was still a little kid, really. And I think I went through puberty about 5 years ago. So I I just remember that time, and I was praying for my dad, and he got through it and everything, so that was good. But I never told anyone. Never told anyone that what I'd gone through, the worry and all that stuff. And I don't know why I mention it now, but it worried me a little bit because I took it on a little. I got a little bit too involved in the whole thing. I mean, previous to that, I used to think I could control the weather, and that I could even, oh blimey, even when I was 15, 16, I remember I was probably 15, 14, 15, something like that. Not long before, I might have even left school at this point. Probably, maybe still at school, but like near the end of school. And I was in Boots Chemist with my stepmum. She was getting, blimey, I even remember where the prescriptions was. How weird is that? So she was on the right hand side buying something, or it might have been perfume. I think it was prescriptions. I can't remember. Anyway, it was on the right hand side. If you go in, this is going to mean nothing to you because you've got no idea where I'm talking about, but there's a Tesco's on the corner on the left hand side. The Boots was on the right hand side on the corner. Opposite Boots was the chip shop that I used to work at. And I was in there, and there was this, I don't know if I think my stepmom was talking to a lady who had a kid. She might have had my little brother with her. But there was this little kid in a pram, like in a buggy. But it was a baby, couldn't speak or anything. And I really believed that I could communicate telepathically with this kid, this little baby. Just like, hello, you're right, and all that stuff. And it was weird, it happened. I said, now dribble. And he dribbled. I'd do a snot bubble. He did a snot bubble. Now have a tantrum. He had a tantrum. To be fair, I had to take his lollipop away, but he did have a tantrum. And I actually thought that I had telepathic powers, that I could do that. Even at 14, 15. Very strange. There was this other thing that in junior school, I used to believe that I could become invisible. I always wanted to be able to become invisible. I think it's a standard thing for kids sometimes. But I actually thought I could become invisible so that no one could see me. Well, you know what invisible is, JJ? Okay. Well, I wanted to become invisible. I also thought I could walk through walls. Now, there was this big wall in junior school. Huge wall, just stood on its own. It wasn't a building, it was just a wall. Maybe it used to be a building, I don't know. But there was a basketball net or something right at the top. And I used to use, what was there? I can't remember. No, they had a goal painted on it. So I used it as a goal. So I used to kick the ball against it sometimes and play football on my own. And that's the best football game I ever had. I loved kicking the ball against the wall and then just kicking it back. And it's more fun than having someone else around. I used to find. Although the wall often used to win. Yeah. So I used to believe I could walk through that wall. And for some reason, I never tested it. I just assumed that I could. Never tested it. I had faith enough, and that was it. But it's weird. It's very weird. It's it's just things like that I remember. I used to think that I was a werewolf. This might sound like I'm just making this stuff up, but it's true. Um, I think it might partially be because I watched American Werewolf in London when I was probably about 11, 10, 11, something like that. And it had a bit of an effect on me, I think. And then when I was about 13, in RE, religious education lessons, the new RE teacher started talking about spirituality, witchcraft, as well as lots of different religions and stuff. Well, paganism was the original religion, one of the original religions in this country, anyway. So I became very interested in vampires and werewolves and witches and all that stuff. And I remember I was walking home. No, I was walking to Sea Cadets, and it was a full moon. And I'm thinking, I looked at it, I see a light, it's a full moon, like, okay. And I changed into a werewolf. I didn't physically change into, but I was like on the floor convulsing and like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was actually doing that. And I had a Sea Cadet uniform on it as well. So I was like really changing and all this stuff. Really believing I was changing into a werewolf, growling and stuff. And then I looked up and I realised that it wasn't a moon, it's just a street light. So I thought, where's the moon? And it was just a half moon. I thought, oh, wrong night. So I just got up and brushed myself off and walked to the Sea Cadets and just had a normal night. So, yeah. But I used to get affected. I remember there was this TV show we used to watch. It was freaky. I can't get it. In fact, I might be able to get it. If I look online, I might be able to find it for you, because it's one of the freakiest. If I'm going to put freakiest alien TV show for kids UK, I bet you it'll come up. I've searched for it before. Oh, go away. It was 80s. Not Chucky. Alien. Was it Alien? No. Okay. Oh, I found it. Oh, The Boy from Space. It was scary. It was scary, and they were really pale. And the boy was lovely, but the people looking for him weren't. And it was a kids' show. Very disturbing. And I remember I was in the near the beach, and I felt I was playing hide and seek with my friends. Okay, they were hiding from me, but anyway, I was looking for them. And this bloke in a raincoat, like dressed just like the one out of the Alien show, the kids show, was just standing there, staring at me, and I thought it was him. And I ran. I really thought it's probably just some bloke having a walk. That's probably all it was. But I really, well, I'm not saying it might have been him, because clearly it's a TV show. I'm not saying maybe it really was him. I'm not sure. No, it wasn't him. It probably wasn't him. It probably wasn't an alien. But I seriously thought it was. And wow. I didn't even realise until that point that I could fly. I did. I like flew all the way home. Wow. So yeah, I used to believe I could fly as well, but again, I never tested that one out. If someone does believe they can fly, then test from the ground. That's always one bit of advice I would give you. What other superpowers did I think I had? There was that kind of I think the Incredible Hulk had an effect on me as well. I believed that if I got angry, I'd get strong and I could turn into a monster or something. And sometimes I would do that. I would not literally turn into the Hulk, but I'd just like lose it. I didn't know kind of what I was doing. Very, very weird. I guess maybe it's play acting, and I'd really got into the play acting, but I mean, I haven't done that for weeks. It's a little while since, a few decades since I last did that. So I like to try and keep hold of reality, whatever reality is to me, my kind of reality. And I realised as time's gone by, especially lately, I've come to conclude. Is that I know you can come to a conclusion, but can you come to conclude something? Yeah, I think so, probably. I've come to a conclusion something is I need to live a very basic life, very simple life, and without drama, without any hassle, as much as possible. Not get involved in that stuff. I've had a lot of it over the years, especially over the last few years. And also when I was a kid, and I just don't need that anymore. Don't want it, don't need it, not going to have it. So I need to be very basic. I can't have credit because there's times when I can't control my spending. So I need to just live on what I've got. There's certain things I need to, there's parameters I need to have to keep things. I don't, it's not that I want to keep myself in a box. Why would you want to keep yourself in a box? But I just need to, yeah, just things like that. There's certain things I've learned over the years, and this has gone a little bit a different direction to what I was thinking it would be when I first started doing this recording. Today, I mean, not the whole podcast, because I do have the occasional semi-serious podcast, but I used to be able to control. Well, I used to think I could control the weather, and I even told the teachers that, and they just, yeah, all right. Didn't care. You'd think that'd be a little, like, if a kid says, I can control the weather, and we're not talking like a 5-year-old, this is like a, 12, 11, 12. That's a bit old to be able to be thinking you can control the weather, the elements of the planet. Again, that might be because of Sapphire and Steel. I used to love Sapphire and Steel. Come to think of it, maybe I've been quite influenced by television. The Invisible Man, Sapphire and Steel, Incredible Hulk. You might say, Sapphire and Steel? Some might say, what is that? So I'd say, when you've finished listening to this, maybe search it online, you'll find out what it is. It's I think all the episodes are on YouTube as well. I mean, it's definitely dated in a sense of it was, wow, a long time ago. I mean, Joanna Lumley was only middle-aged at that point, so it's probably 40 odd years or whatever. And it was David McCullum and Joanna Lumley. Sapphire and Steel, absolutely phenomenal. One of the best TV shows. Sapphire, and it should give me Sapphire. No, it's just trying. Isn't it weird? Mind you, I've spelled Sapphire Sohir, so maybe that's why it's not come up, because it doesn't actually make any sense. Sapphire, and rugby. Sapphire and Steel. Okay. Oh, go away! It keeps trying to get me to sign in. So Joanna Lumley, she's 78 now. Blimey. And David McCullum. Oh, he was 90 when he passed away. So it was last year, less than a year ago. Blimey. They were both so good. And then David McCullum was the Invisible Man, as well as being Steel. Yeah, because Joanne Lumley was Sapphire. So maybe I was, and the elements, like, well, they didn't control the weather, but they controlled elements, so they could control different elements. And the rain is an element, isn't it? I think. I'm not really sure what I'm talking about now. I mean, now. I mean, earlier on, I've been completely, but now I'm not sure. Elements. It's elements, but it's not metal, is it? But there's metal in water, isn't it? I mean, not just the stuff that's the government chucks in, but maybe there isn't. Oh dear, why did I have to film this one? So this all came from talking about this thing, the Bible. I got quite a few Buddhist books there as well. If you don't know if you can see it, there's an orange book somewhere. It's a Buddhist book. Yeah, I was trying to get in contact with who I was as a person, because I felt in some ways that when I was a kid, I was more in touch with who I was, and then as I got older, there was all these I don't know how to explain it, but I suppose because I settled down, I was in the same town from the age of 7 to 19, pretty much. So it's 12 years. Lived in the same house from the ages of 9 till 15. So what's that? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is that all just 6 years? It's ridiculous, isn't it? It felt like forever. So I was in that house for that period of time. So that was the longest I'd ever lived anywhere in my life at that point. And this here is now the longest I've lived anywhere, ever, in my life. Never lived anywhere for 9 years. Well, it's over 9 years now. So April, May, June, July. So 9 years, 3 months since I've moved here. And it needs redecorating. Oh yes, redecorating. That's what's needed. But I think having that, I say stability, but being in the same place for a period of time, I kind of lost myself a bit. It's almost like I knew who I was prior to that in my own way, and I was no longer I don't know. I think I had more freedom when I was younger because there was a lot of chaos, but within that, I had a degree of freedom to do what I wanted to do, to a degree. Even when I was in the kids' home, there was too many of us to be kept an eye on all the time. So we kind of did my own thing. As long as I wasn't seen being naughty, I could get away with stuff. Although I did get in trouble quite a bit. I think my main thing is I just didn't like their food and I wouldn't eat it and I would refuse. I would never back down. Ever. Just like Vinny. He won't back down. Never backs down. He stands his ground, whatever. And that's what I was like when I was little. And then what happened is I went from being tough, even though I was absolutely miniature, but I grew up being a tough kid, just like anyone would be at that. You know, we was all tough. I'm not like just, I don't know how to explain, not like, whoa, my box up, woo, but just like tough mentality. I dealt with a lot of stuff, or had a lot of stuff happen. And then living in a little town for 12 years, it softened me, but not in a good way. Or maybe in a good way, but it turned me into a bit of a wimp, really. Which, not really, I don't know. Yeah, kind of. Because it's just, when I was younger, stuff that happened when I was like 14, or even 13, the idea of avoiding someone because they was a tough kid in the school and just not getting into confrontations, just like giving them a bit of space and not, I wouldn't have done that when I was 6. In fact, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have even avoided a 12 or 13-year-old when I was 6 because they wouldn't have scared me. I wouldn't have been, no kid was scary to me when I was a kid. It's weird. It's really sort of strange how to explain it, but then when I lived this very much smaller life, but bigger life in some ways, but way safer in a lot of ways as well, and more comfortable. I had, before that I didn't have any toys, I didn't have anything, I didn't have nothing. When I was 7, when I moved to my stepmom, my dad's and my stepmom's house, and they'd just got married, I think, and so it was just before I was 7 years old. It was a summer before I was 7. Apart from a few little bits of clothes, I had, I think, one book. Maybe I had a colouring in book, and that was it. That was my whole belongings. I didn't have anything. None of my brothers had anything. So everything we had came from them, from my dad and his wife. And so I never had a bike. Yeah, it taught me how to ride a bike when I was about 7 years old. And my brother taught him how to ride a bike. He was 9. We never had bikes. So it's a lot of good stuff, but it's also like it made me a bit soft. But it probably saved me as well, to be fair. There's probably a huge amount I need to be grateful for towards my dad and his wife. I've just seen a light bulb. Wonder what that's doing there. I think it's a screwy in light bulb rather than a one with the pins, and I don't have any light fittings that have the screwy in for light bulb. I wonder why it's there. It's just underneath the telly, just laying there like it's nothing. Like it's why shouldn't I be here? I'm lying here under the telly. I've been here for months. What's your problem? Why are you mentioning it now? It's got a proper attitude, that light bulb. Anyway, yeah, it's weird. I'm just thinking out loud. Don't worry. I'm just thinking about stuff. Because in them days, late 70s, early 80s, if I left school in 1986. The the I don't think the teachers took any notice of the kids. They didn't. There wasn't any kind of care or counselling or anything like that. And so my weird behaviour just went. I don't think my behaviour went unnoticed, but it got to the point where they just gave up. The teachers gave up. They didn't care anymore because it wasn't worth the hassle. As long as I kind of was fairly quiet, they'd leave me to sit there reading a magazine or just doodling or just as long as I wasn't too disruptive, which sometimes I wouldn't be. But it's boredom. I couldn't force myself. I still can't. I still can't. I can't force myself to be interested in something I'm not interested in. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. Never been able to do it. So it's like if there's a subject that I'm trying to think of something that I've got no interest in. I just, for example, geography. When I was at school, maths. When I was at school, I didn't like maths. I wasn't interested in maths. Or mathematics. I just wasn't my thing. And nothing. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing I couldn't have done. There might have been something I could have done which would have got me interested. I mean, I became slightly less bored when I had a teacher that was nice, that took the actual time to sit me on his lap and say, look, he didn't sit me on his lap, but actually he took the time to go and say, look, if you do this, just do it like that. And he was so kind, so patient, which is what I needed, because in all fairness, some would say, super slow. Now, I am and I'm not. I am sometimes really slow. Like even just if I'm in a certain mood, I don't even really notice what people are saying, what if they said something rude or whatever. Generally, I'm not quite as slow as I appear, and I think I come across to some people as being hugely unintelligent when I'm just mildly unintelligent. So there's a difference. There's a gap between that. There's one thing. Yeah, there's a gap. I think when it comes to maths, I am a complete dum dum. I am. I count on my fingers still. Sometimes when I don't even need to. That's the weirdest sentence I think I've ever said in my life. Sometimes I count when I still count on my fingers sometimes when I don't even need to. That is weird. That's a weird sentence. That's a really strange sentence. That's really weird. So, I couldn't bring myself, when I was at school, I couldn't bring myself to be interested in something that I wasn't interested in. Now, the only class I was interested in really I wasn't interested in English. Once I got to high school, I was before that. I loved reading. I loved English when I was in junior school, and I was almost like a teacher's pet. You know, I'd go home and I'd take a book home and I'd read it. I'd bring it back the next day, and I just, I was practicing my handwriting. Loved it. Loved it. Anything to do with English, I loved it. It's not that doesn't mean I know all about. I'm some kind of expert on English, because I'm not. But I just loved it. I loved reading. That was my favourite thing to do. Till I got to about 12, and then priorities changed. So yeah, so religious education and drama were the only two subjects that I actually liked in high school. So the RE is just, I don't know, I don't know why. It was a really relaxing room, and the two teachers I had were both lovely. Really, I had three teachers that I liked in the whole of high school. Two of them were RE teachers. One was there as a man, he left. I think he might have retired, and then a lady came in and she was the next teacher, and she took over that role, and she was lovely as well. And the other teacher was the maths teacher that I had for about one term in the high school, the first term of the first year, and then I was taken into the dunces room during maths. Me and all the troublemakers and everything were just put into one room, left on our own to play games and whatever. It was the remedial class or something. Seriously, I was taken out of maths. At that point, I wasn't even being disruptive, because I hadn't quite got to that stage yet. I don't think I was. I was very disruptive after that. I had a maths teacher that I didn't get on with. We didn't see eye to eye. And I was disruptive continuously with her because she was horrible to me. So, yeah. And also I saw that I realised that if you just refused to do anything, they couldn't be bothered. The teachers just kind of gave up. So I just go in there, especially later in school, when I got to about 14, 13, 14, 15, probably 14, 15, I got it down to a T. I literally didn't do anything. I don't think I did any homework. I didn't listen to a single thing that was being said in class. I'd bring in bodybuilder magazines, kung fu magazines, books, and I'd just read, and that would be it. Or I'd be talking to my friend next to me, or just being annoying, basically. I'm not proud of it. A little bit. No, I'm not really. It's just, that's how it was. That's what happened. And I had this thing, if I wasn't shown respect, I didn't give respect. Which is probably a bit weird for a kid to have that ideology, but that's how I felt. If you're rude to me, I'll be rude to you, regardless of who you are, regardless of how old you are or what your role is. Every job I had for many years, if someone was rude to me, either I left the job or I was rude back to them. Right from when I was a kid, like even with part-time jobs, I didn't put up with any rubbish from anyone. And I don't know why, but it's a bit sensitive, maybe a little bit too sensitive. Wanted equality. I wanted to be seen. I wanted equal rights. So I So RE, that was cool. All the way through high school, RE. I don't think I got told off once in that lesson. I probably didn't learn anything either because I was probably still reading magazines, but I didn't cause trouble. I went in there. I was interested in some of the religion stuff, especially like Hinduism and Sikhism and things that I'd never heard of before. It was, that was like voodoo to me. It was in the same category because I'd only really heard of Christianity and Catholicism, probably Islam to a certain degree, but the other religions, wow, didn't know anything about them. Then I discovered Buddhism, and I knew a little bit about Buddhism from watching Kung Fu on TV because he was a Buddhist monk, Kane from Kung Fu. Remember if you know that show from about 300 years ago. And so I knew about Buddhism from that TV show. I knew a bit about Japanese like meditation and Zen because there was a TV show with Richard Chamberlain called Shogun. It's weird that I remember that. That's a bit... What an obscure reference. And probably because a lot of the old Sinbad movies, they used to sort of say, and talk about like Allah and all that stuff. Like, so I think I'm pretty asked what that was. So I wasn't sure. So if you watch them old movies, they're talking about that stuff a lot in those movies. Not a lot, but they just discuss it. It's like what does that mean? I used to ask. Unfortunately, the TV didn't answer always. So drama was another one that I didn't like it. I loved it. I didn't like it because it was... I wasn't in a classroom. I could misbehave, I could run around, play around, and just do what I wanted to do. Dress up as a woman, put on makeup, which is what I did every week. I didn't even have to. I just liked doing it. When I turn up in the summer holidays, just no one else around. But I couldn't get some of the makeup off in time because it was always drama was on a Friday afternoon. The last 2 or 3 lessons on a Friday, which meant there was an assembly every Friday afternoon at the end of the day. So I'd be in the assembly, and like they said, people were like, why have you got makeup on? And I'd explain, like being in drama, I didn't have time to take the makeup off. And they'd say, okay, it's fine, but what about the dress? You could have took the dress off. So like, didn't care. Don't care. I'm not sure. I don't think I'd ever really make a particularly pleasant female. I mean, I don't make a great man, so I don't think I'll make a particularly good female either. I think it'd take more than makeup. Head transplant, probably. So yeah, I used to like that because I could play around, I could run around and be silly. My best friend Dean was also in doing that as well, so we could muck around with each other, and it was just fun. It was a game. And then what happened? The cookery lessons, didn't like that. I did it because it was easier than sitting. I could be on my feet. I could do stuff, I could walk around, I could have a laugh, and I got to eat some cakes as well because I cooked cakes and stuff. So I didn't mind cooking lesson. I chose it as a subject, so home economics. I did that for the last 2 years, or last 3 years maybe, of high school. But I didn't like the class, I just preferred it over sitting in a classroom pretending to be interested in the subject. Geography, had no choice with geography. There were certain subjects we had to do: geography, history, maths, and English, and science. And PE, physical education. I think RE had to do RE for the first 2 years, but the last 3 years, or third, fourth, and fifth year, it was a choice. But for the first 2 years, I think I had to do RE. I took it as a subject because I was interested in it. I look like I've only got one shoulder here and the other one's tiny, but it's the way the chair is. That's it. Well, lopsided, that's it. If I do, that's better. So I don't remember a single thing I learned in history. Generally, don't remember a single thing, which is weird because now I quite like history now. I like watching dramas, like historical things about Romans and the Vikings and stuff like that. It fascinates me. But some teacher in front of a blackboard with chalk writing stuff, that didn't interest me. So that was history. Geography, I couldn't care. It's like, if I want to know where somewhere is, I'll just look at a map. That was my attitude on that. You know, I know how to get home from school. I know how to get to the sweet shop. And I know where the toilet is. That was as much geography as I needed. I know how to get to my bedroom from the kitchen. So I wasn't interested in traveling or anything like that. So I didn't really see the point. I mean, I think I must have absorbed some of that, like for being in the classroom, I don't know, maybe twice a week for years and years. I would have absorbed some of that information, but I didn't take any notice of it. You know, for me, it was just like, when is this going to end? How much longer have we got? And I'd just be staring at the clock, and I wasn't interested. So history, geography, so that's them subjects covered. Science was sometimes interesting. Yeah, I'll give science its due. Sometimes it was interesting, like mixing chemicals, the Bunsen burner, things like that. And I used to do I didn't sit and do nothing because it was practical. So maybe it was a bit more what I needed. It kept me busy. And we always partnered up with someone so I could have a laugh. And yeah, science was all right. I wasn't interested in it, but it was an easier time, and easier than history. It was less stale. The history lessons and geography just seemed so stale. Like, really, just here's a textbook, and now we're just going to work out the textbook. And we're going to talk about the pictures in the textbook, and look at the text in the textbook, and that was it. Like, okay. But with science, you got to burn myself accidentally, but on the tripods. So the Bunsen burner would be underneath the tripods, and on top of the tripods would be a mesh, a metal mesh, and then you'd have the dish or whatever that you were boiling or on top. And the amount of times I just completely forget, don't touch the tripod legs. Don't touch it, don't. And I was constantly burning myself. Not badly, just enough to like, ow. Yeah, it wasn't always the most safest place for me to be honest. Yeah, I got through quite a few of the. Yeah, anyway, it was semi interesting, but I didn't want to be a scientist. I wouldn't involve myself in any sign of the dissecting stuff. No, not for me. No thanks. I just thought it was cruel. I mean, I don't just can't you show me a video? Dissect one thing if you have to. Show us a video of it. I have to do. I don't want to do it myself. I'm not going to be a surgeon, especially not on frogs. A frog surgeon. What's the chances? That reminds me. No, it doesn't remind me that the Olympics is on. It doesn't. No, it doesn't remind me of that. I'm just thinking of. It's in France. No, not. I'm not talking about. No, just because of the high jump. That's why. I'm just thinking of the high jump. The Olympics do a high jump, so that's why I'm thinking frogs and high jump, not France. And it's the high jump and the long jump, because frogs can jump quite long as well. I've not watched any of the Olympics so far. I mean, I'd like to see the boxing. These two. No, actually, I did watch some of the Olympics today. It was the archery, and it was Korea against China, and they kept pulling these things. This one of the females, it's a female team, and they pulled the thing up right up to their chin, and squashing their nose down and letting it go, and there's a mark all the way down their face from where they kept doing it. And I thought to myself, and you could see her chin was chapped, and like there's a dent, not like Kirk Douglas, but there was a definite like indent, maybe from recently, but it's not like it's the first time she's ever done it. I'm guessing they practice every now and then before the Olympics. So you gotta just turn up, do you? Like you've got a little weekend hobby. Oh, we've got the Olympics soon. I better get the old dust off the old bow and arrow. Sorry, Vinny. I didn't mean to kick you. Sorry, babe. And I thought, why don't they have something on their face to protect their chin? And then the next person comes up, plaster on a chin. Then the next one came up, plaster. They all had these like plaster, like bandagey plaster things on their chin, except this one woman that I saw first, and she got a bullseye. So I'm thinking that maybe that got in the way of the aim. Technically, though, okay, outside you've got wind. Inside my pants we've got wind, but just standing outside you got the wind. But when you're indoors, surely, I mean, you could do the same argument for darts, but surely, why would you just not always get the same? Get a bullseye every single time? If you're practicing and that's what you do, wouldn't you just get if there's no wind, and if it's, I mean, they were outside, so it's a little bit different, but it looks like a really sophisticated thing. Like the bow is like super sophisticated. It's not just like a bit of string and a stick that you've bent to try and attach it to it. They're not using them. It's a proper, you know. It's not like when you got off Amazon for $4.99, free postage. It's a proper thing. Probably hundreds of pounds, probably maybe thousands of pounds. I don't know. So outdoors, okay, fair enough. But indoors, you'd get the bullseye every time, surely. But then you could say that about darts. But then with darts, you don't have to. You have to do different ones, haven't you? You know, because you have to get it down from 180. So you have to get. I keep thinking 180. I don't know what score you start from. No, is it one you have to get down from 180 down or something? Or something like that. I can't remember. What's the highest score in darts? Snooker, I think it's 180. That's snooker, isn't it? I think, or is it badminton? I saw some badminton on the Olympics. Yeah. It didn't excite me, if I'm honest. Yeah, it didn't quite. You know, didn't grease up the engine. Didn't quite. You know, I didn't feel lubricated. Not lubricated. I don't know what the right word. It just. I've always quite liked badminton. I tell you what, I didn't. I suppose it was couples. It was like couple badminton, like two people on either side. I prefer it when it's just one person. It's like doubles tennis. I guess it's doubles badminton, isn't it? Doubles tennis doesn't really do it for me. I'm not a huge tennis fan, but for me that would be like doubles snooker or doubles darts. Although darts is, well, it's two people, isn't it? But they're against each other. Mind you, I think darts would be better if they had one side of the hall with a dartboard and then the other dartboard on the other side of the hall, so a big glass partition, but you could see a big on a big screen where they are. So whoever's on one side's can be on that side, and so they can be looking at each other while they're throwing. Yeah. That's an idea. Also, if we find out, I thought about this earlier, got a lot of ideas. I think some of them are worth a penny or so. Find out what a dog's nose is made of, the material. Because Vinny had his head in a bunch of stinging nettles earlier. He was sniffing the stinging nettles and he was just like, didn't get affected by the stinging nettles. Now, if I did that, my nose would be even redder than it already is. So I need to find out. It's not that I want to sort of start playing with them and, like, you know, rolling around in them, but it'd be nice to know if we could replicate something that, like a dog's nose, to replicate that material, so when you're walking through a field you can just, or you could, yeah, you could wear it. You could wear it. Yeah, you could wear a big dog's nose in the field. That's brought up a different, yeah, weird visual. Anyway, I'm going to go because Vinny started barking. So I'm going to have to... the thing is with Vinny, he doesn't like start like... and then... He's like instant... Rah, 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 rah. Makes me jump. It's too much, to be honest. Really, really too much. Especially when I'm trying to make a podcast and I'm trying to focus. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is me focusing. So, thanks for listening. Remember, thanks for watching. Remember to be kind to yourself. You deserve to be happy. Be gentle with yourself. Lots of love. Bye.